very first episode on Policy Corner, the space where we discuss about policy, break it down to you, and tell you what it actually means. And here is your host, Oyindamola, and my co-host,
Chike in the building. Yeah, Chike.
Okay, so we'll be discussing what policy is. Chike, what do you think?
So, to me, policy is basically everything. Policy refers to what the government chooses to do or not to do in order to solve a public problem. That's very broad, but it really is for many things.
So here's the thing. Maybe he's trying to use big language, but let me just explain it. Let me explain what he's trying to say. So we have always as citizens of a particular country, we have always engaged with policy every point in time. If you are complaining about the state of health of Nigeria, you've complained about public policy. If you are complaining about electricity tariff as at now, you've always complained about public policy, or you've interacted with public policy. Funny enough, when you go to the bank to register for BVN or you go for NIN, you've interacted with public policy, but you do not really know this.
Yeah, really. That's like I said, policy is everything. It's just not even a fancy word. It's just a word that I would say people are not really used to. But then, like I said earlier on, that it's basically what the government chooses to do or not to do. And I think the not to do part is very important, because even government action is some sort of silent policy in that sense. So yeah, policy is everything.
When you talk about government reaction, now let's take this NHIS. Is a way of policy from the government, especially the federal government, on health insurance for health's sake. Yeah. So a lot of people that have NHIS, they don't even know how that policy came into place. They just feel like, okay, the government said we should do this, let's go and do this. So those are part of the things we are trying to explain to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good example. And if you actually, so what people know is NHIS, but actually it was called the NHIS Act. It's an act actually. It's an act. So it's actually a policy document that was, that went through the process of first hearings, all that happened. But then what people are used to is just, I remember back then in the early 2000s, there was this advert, NHIS, National Health Insurance. That was the advert back then. So that's what people are used to. But people are not aware of the fact that this is actually policy that has come up.
You know the funniest thing? My first encounter with the NHIS was when I was in my final year in university. They made it very compulsory for university students to pay the NHIS fee. Wow. So I really did not know that it was a government. I thought it was the university that just came up with one particular policy. And sometimes policy doesn't really have to do with what it doesn't really have to do with only the federal government or the state government. And so many people make that mistake. I mean, universities have their own policy. When I was entering the university, they come up with the policy that JAM came up with the policy that if you are not 16 years old, you cannot enter the university. So that's an example of a grassroots policy.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing this example up, really, because people who are in the corporate space would know about policy in a different sense. And that's why it's important to clarify what we are about here. So, like we said, we are Policy Corner. So we're trying to discuss on government policy in Nigerian context. Because that's the thing you said now is an example of policy in the university context. That's government policy in also. But if you try and boil it down to, let's say, use policy maybe in a school. For example, some schools in Nigeria do not have SUG.
Mm-hmm.
That's the government issue. That's not the federal government, local government.
Wait. If you're looking at it in that kind of aspect, then we can always allow people to know that, okay, there are different types of policies. And I think we have economic policy, and that is where this taxation, I think I can call this taxation policy under economic policy. Then
let's not go there now, please.
Okay. Let's bring it down.
Okay.
Taxation is really recent. We can talk about the one that caused chaos in Nigeria about 3 years ago, the fuel subsidy. So that's an example of the economic policy. And then we have minimum wage law, the one that was passed in. So these are type of economic policies. I think when people understand the type of policies they are dealing with, then they will be able to know that, okay, this policy was made for the government, or this policy was made for a private institution that is backed by the government.
Yeah, this you mentioned is a very good example, again, of something that came to my mind. Was around minimum wage. Nigeria have been trying to change minimum wage laws for the better part of the last 5 years before it was changed just last year. What happened? A girl from NYSC posted a video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think her name is Rai on Twitter.
She
started on TikTok. Yes.
But that's okay. It's more of an advanced conversation, but I can just chip it in now. So generally, we don't really see the fact that policy actually controls our everyday life, like every single day. That policy was on debate for several years to push up minimum wage, because Nigerians currency has been falling for several years, and the minimum wage at that point was not up to our current standard of living. It's not up to right now.
Yes,
but it's better than before. But what sparked that change was one individual posting a video. And that's, for me, so interesting, because imagine if we as people took policy that seriously. There are several bills up for debate in the House.
Yeah, that will be passed. And that brings me to the issue of how people do not even know that policies control their day-to-day life. For example, if you take electricity tariff as an example, this band A, band B, people were not really affected about it when they said, okay, they are going to increase electricity. But when it became to the point that some people will have electricity and they will be on band A, and then the money on band A was becoming too much. At first, people didn't really see it as anything. But then, electricity tariff has affected our life. Fuel subsidy has affected our life. The quality of roads that we have. Okay, so it rains today. You need to see Oshodi and Ikeja. Oh my God. And then we have environmental policies. I'm sure a lot of people don't know that we don't have different environmental policies that governs Lagos State. Let me use Lagos State as an example. And then it brings me back to this 2023 debate where Badebo Rosevival said Lagos State doesn't have a wetland policy. Well, I think
please, that's an advanced conversation. We're talking policy, not politics. We are talking
about
I agree with you. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Yeah. So really, that's exactly what I was saying. That most of the time, when you're talking about governance and the and the social contract and all of that, and how as a people in the democratic setting we lease our governance rights to our representatives. That's the policymakers, the governors, the executive, all those people, we listen to them. And then, as a people, we then forget that these rights and these powers that these people are exercising belong to us, actually. Mm-hmm. And only when, like they say in the proverb, when the shoe is trying to pain us, we now shout and roar. But generally having a sense of awareness that, okay, this and this is not right, this and this is not right, I think would help Nigerians to be more aware about policy and how to impact it. For example, you gave now about wetland policy. We only remember that Lagos can be flooded or Nigeria can be flooded when it starts falling.
Yes.
What about that?
That's actually a problem that we have in this thing. And it's not like we don't have those policies, but the problem is that sometimes we need to be honest to ourselves as citizens. Sometimes policy fail. And one of the reasons why policy fails is because poor implementation. Or when the citizens that you are giving policies, if they don't even understand the policy that you are giving to them, there's a problem. For example, if you take this policy on waste disposal, a lot of people do not even understand that, okay, we need to first of all separate our trash, bottles, and this. I always say that if I'm given the opportunity to become the governor of Lagos State, the first thing I'm going to do is first of all, I'm going to ban pet coke or anything that has to do with bottle, plastic bottles. But I'm not here for politics, I'm here for policy. So they will recall you.
Try it first. So in boss, I won't buy Gara Kasera. Try it first. I will recall you.
The thing is that we as a country, or should I say as a state, or as a local government, or wherever we find ourselves, you need to bring the people closer to the policy. In as much as, the policies are being formulated at the National Assembly or at the House of Representatives, we still need to bring the people closer to the policy, because you cannot be making a policy for people and it's not reflective of their life. It's going to be very, very catastrophic. Do you understand? For example, now look at general hospitals. They are on strike.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yes. They are all on strike due to their own internal issues.
Sorry, this is a side. So on the side, I heard Nah, they were on strike before. I'm not called strike. That's Association of Resident Doctors.
No,
So
the resident
this
doctors on
separate.
strike are different from
General hospitals.
Yeah, the hospitals that are on, the
Very
people that are on
interesting.
strike now are the other health workers in the hospitals, laboratory people, health record officers.
but not doctors
Yeah, not
themselves.
doctors. Doctors and nurses are working.
Oh,
So now,
understand.
this kind of thing now is really affecting the health sector because people are coming to the hospital, trooping into the hospital to pay, to pay, to see doctors, do this and do that. Now, if you need to if you are giving a policy, you need to be able to balance up each sector. You cannot give a policy that is only going to balance up the citizens and not balance the people working in those sectors. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So we need to bring the policy closer to the people.
Stakeholders and all that.
Yes.
That's a very broad position. But if we're talking about stakeholders, at the core of, yes, everybody's important. The people who are involved, the people who are actively working around that policy subjects and all that. But I think it's important for us to highlight the key stakeholder in every policy, which is the citizen, which is the Nigerian. So there is, okay.
I don't think if you go outside and you do like a research and you ask questions from citizens, if you ask them in Yoruba or whatever language you want to ask them, and ask them, do you think you are a key stakeholder in the policy decision of Nigeria? They will say no. Because many of them feel they were not consulted when the president woke up one morning to remove the first subsidy. Many of them feel that they were not consulted when they increased the electricity tariff. So many Nigerians don't see themselves as stakeholders when it has to do with policy.
So I'm a bit tongue-tied here, but I understand the argument, I understand the perspective of feeling like an outsider in the entire thing. But I would say that kind of thinking basically sets up the government to be able to detach itself from the people and act as a separate actor, not in favor of people.
The government is already they are detached from the people.
Let's not go there first.
No. We have to be very factual on this program. Whatever we are saying here is reality. The government cannot be boboing his people and then we'll come here and bobo the people too. So we have to be very, very factual. The people they are very, no, let me tap on the people, the people and the government.
No, go on.
They are, their backs are turned to each other. Yoruba will say what it can around. It means that there's no an eye-to-eye seeing place amongst the people and the government. Now, we are being told that we have a national youth, what's it called? How many times has this person addressed us? Okay, the government wants to bring out this policy, wants to bring out a policy on, let me say, gender-based violence. How many times have women come or the youth come to sit down, people have seminars, listen to their point of view? I know you cannot get everybody's point of view for in developing a policy. That is the reason why we have evidence-based policy making.
Yeah, that's
okay, feels like I'm going.
I'm
just being sincere. Yeah. I'm talking from the perspective of an average Nigerian who doesn't understand policy, because these are the things that we need to explain to them.
But I want to segue from something you said about how the Yoruba that you mentioned, where the government and people don't currently see eye to eye. And even if that appears to be the case, and I think it's very intentional, to be very honest. What you find is that in situations where the people put their foot down, the government always goes back. Always. No matter how much we might say that they don't see eye to eye. And essentially, that tells you, in any relationship, that tells you who actually is boss. When it comes to a local health station, eye to eye, who backs down?
Well, the people have to back the government.
No. Let's try and phrase this in a more common context.
Okay.
In any relationship, a friendship, a marriage, two people dating, whatever is happening, like teacher and student. Now they can have a minor sparks here and there back and forth where one party ignores. When it comes to a case where both parties are interested and they are loggerheads, whoever backs down in that instance is the person that is of less power. And what you find in Nigeria.
Are you trying to say that the citizens back down for the government?
No. Get me clearly. What I'm trying to say is that when you look at it critically, what you find is that when Nigerians put their foot down, the government always listens. Let's just do a small case studies before I wrap up this podcast. So think of Occupy Nigeria. It's 2012 January. Jonathan removed subsidy. Fuel goes from 62 naira to 140 naira. People go on strike. Everywhere is crazy. Everywhere shuts down. Jonathan says he can't do it. He puts it back. But then, let's pick on another one. The one that's very rancorous.
Let me counter you. Let me counter you on that, Jonathan's. No. Let me counter you on that because I don't want you to be giving me textbook/reality case studies. Now let me counter you on that, Jonathan's fuel subsidy removal. What was at play there was not just the will of the people. Was because the will of the people was backed by politics. That is what I want you to know.
See,
because the will of the people during that time would not have been strong enough. It was backed by the major politics. Now it is that same politics that allowed the first subsidy to be removed as of today.
Yes. So now see.
Now, if you want to use the NHIA as an example, because that was your next case study.
Get my point. My point is that politics generally bends to the point where people. Now, politicians can politic and do all they can do in the shadows. But when people are aware, they have to bend at least on some level to what people want. Unless they don't rest. That's just the way it works. Unless you want an insurrection.
When you are being faced with superior politics,
understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying politics
is inferior, then public policy cannot see a way.
So
I need our audience to know that while we are trying to say that, we want you to understand policy, which is what actually our goal on this podcast. We need you to know that many policies are backed by politics. In theory, they will say politics is the higher addendum and policy is the higher addendum, meaning what the government wants to do, which is backed by politics. So it is what they do.
Definition.
Yes. So
what is how chances are shared?
During our next podcast, we are going to discuss on how policy affected or has affected a whole lot of things in Nigeria. For example, taxation, or let's even take it down closer, the EndSARS. So thank you very much for listening to today's episode. We'll see you on our next episode. Thank you very much.
I'm great, guys. Bye. See you next week.